Then I returned to Iceland, and of course, as you know, the war started in December for America going against Japan, and Germany shortly thereafter declared war. Since we had had a highly chosen personnel and officers, particularly up in Iceland, the War Department and that kind of a general headquarters actually in those days were asking for not asking for, but ordering certain soldiers and officers to go back to the America to form new divisions and so forth. And I was in my hut. There were 6 of us in the hut, and suddenly, by one, they were all leaving to go back to America, and I find myself all alone in my hut after a while, and I feel rather lonely. And I didn't know why, but pretty soon a general from general headquarters in Washington came, and by this time I was a lieutenant colonel by then, and he said that I couldn't go back to the States. Sorry, even though I'd had a year and a half at least in Iceland, I couldn't go back because I was needed for a very important assignment coming up and had to go down to London. The British had established a combined headquarters, and they had a staff working full time on the possible invasion of Europe. The Americans came in, and they, of course, it broadened the sphere of things because not only by this time they had French in exiles, they had Polish in exiles, they had Dutch in exiles, and now the Americans came along. And they said, what do you want to call it? Supreme Headquarters, Allied Expeditionary Forces. So it could combine all the forces into a combat unit for the invasion and so forth. Our Itausa, as I say, was the American headquarters for all the American forces in the Army. I would say that probably the functions were very similar to that of being the War Department. We were sort of a War Department for Europe. It was a little bit difficult at that time because while I went into Paris early, probably first to get into there, because I flew in from Normandy on an L5 airplane, a little one-motor job, reconnaissance plane. And the pilot, I was told, I was told anyway by FFI that we could get into Paris, that most of the Germans were gone, and I thought maybe we could get somebody in there, and we had a meeting, and I decided I could get into Paris with this plane. So we took an L5, and the pilot said, well, I have no maps to get in there. I don't know how I'm going to get by there. I have no aviation maps to get into Paris, or where landing fields or anything else. And what? Well, we looked it all over, and we found out there was a railroad track where we're very close by. That track went right into Paris. So I said, well, I'll navigate and you pilot. And we followed the railroad tracks into Paris. And the poor guy on the suburb of Paris, we found a place that was, maybe it was an athletic field or something, but it was certainly a nice open ground. And we landed there. And but anyway, I hadn't landed any more than a few minutes. It seemed that the FFA was informed I was coming there. And they met me in their car. Crazy bunch of people. I think 5 in that automobile waving flags and banners and all kinds of stuff. They were the underground people, and they met me, and was of course happy to see some of the first Americans they'd seen. And they were going to take me back into Paris, and we rode into Paris in that car. I suppose we hadn't gone any more than a couple, 3 miles, and I heard a bang. And I thought, oh boy, they caught us. They know we're here. The enemy sure does. They're after me, you know. After us. And we went further, and another great big bang, and I got very nervous. They saw I was nervous. They didn't appear nervous, but I was nervous. Then they explained to me that their automobile wasn't using gasoline. It was some kind of a charcoal engine that they had for the automobile. And it backfired and made big spurts about every several miles, you know. And I was quite relieved by that. we made it a point to allow the French to be what they call the liberation of Paris. We took a division out under Leclerc. Leclerc was the commanding general of the French division, and we brought them out of the combat zone and put them in ranks to go into Paris and march with banners, relieving France as though the French had relieved and done it and had liberated Paris. And that division, while it was a good fighting division, and they were supposed to, I think they gave them, I can't remember how many days leave, but they gave them a certain number of days leave to reorganize and get back. Well, it took a lot longer than those few days. The Frenchmen just didn't get back, and they just didn't get around. It took a long time to reorganize that division. And,
they were happy.
Well, they were happy. Yeah, they were having a good time, I guess. And I remember I watched I watched them as they came in, and of course, banners flying, all kinds of stuff. French were very happy. They've been relieved now.